Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. What's better than wings, cold beer, and a Husker win? Enjoy great food and drink specials every day and tons of TVs to catch all the action. Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill.
This is Chris Elgert, loan originator at Lincoln Federal. With over 20 years in the industry, I have found it's extremely gratifying to solve my customers' home financing needs and then show them the options and strategies available for them to fulfill their goals. But my biggest reward comes when I watch my valued customers experience the American dream of home ownership and move into their new home. Talk with me about your home loan at Lincoln Federal and Go Big Red. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Personal banking like you remember.
It's time for the Jay Foreman Postgame Show.
Here's Coy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score!
Look to the left, and he kind of telegraphed it all the way. When the ball was tipped, Foreman's in the right spot.
Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinnie Creekhack of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
Here's Fuente dropping back, fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Black Shirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up? Welcome in. This is the Jay Foreman Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert with you to start things. Austin Norman alongside Jay en route to the studio as we speak. This postgame show brought to you by our good friends over at Anderson Ford of Lincoln, Vinnie Creekhack of State Farm Insurance, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Tavern 180, and our friends at Tanner's Bar and Grill. Nebraska 4-1 on the 2024 season with a 28-10 victory over the Purdue Boilermakers. It didn't look pretty at times, but especially for the majority of the first half, and then even to start the second half. But Nebraska gets a much-needed touchdown on what was their only third down conversion of the game on a touchdown pass from Dylan Raiola to Jamal Banks. Nebraska gets on the board in that way. They ended up taking that lead 7-3 at the moment. Nebraska puts up 21 points in the fourth quarter of action. They allowed a late touchdown to the Boilermakers on a third down play for them. And that's kind of how we got to 28-10. As always, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line are open for you guys the entire post-game show today. We will have about an hour of coverage here on the Jay Foreman post-game show, and then we'll have the second post-game to follow as well. We'll switch out a couple of the bodies in our 93.7 The Ticket studios and take you to probably around 4:30, 4:15, 4:30 when it's all said and done. So Nebraska gets the victory 28-10. We definitely want to hear you guys and your guys' thoughts on Nebraska's fourth win in 5 games. They're off to a 4-1 start, 2 wins away from that bowl mark, if you will, and they face Rutgers next Saturday on homecoming. Dylan Raiola finishes 17 of 27, has 257 passing yards, a touchdown, no INTs. Ja'Cory Barney Jr. is your leading rusher for the Huskers. 4 carries, 66 yards. He had that 25-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter as well. Jamal Banks, for the second week in a row, is your leading receiver. 5 catches on 6 targets for 82 receiving yards and a score. All right, Austin, initial thoughts on Nebraska's 28-10 victory.
Win's a win. Kind of the opposite of the Colorado game script, right? Where Nebraska jumps out to a 28-0 lead and then, don't say coasts or cruises through the second half. It was certainly bumpy. Pretty much the exact opposite here. No score through the first half, not for the lack of opportunity and chances, but Nebraska scores on its first 3 drives of the second half.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest part of that, Nick, was Purdue drove all the way down to the Nebraska 27, took like 6.5 minutes or 8 minutes off the clock for that drive. You're like, okay, how many more chances does Nebraska have with the ball to get on the board with an offense that certainly moved the ball, but it didn't look like it because you didn't score any points, right? Special teams is going to be a huge area of conversation. Third down is going to be a huge area of conversation as we move forward here. But the response from the offense to kind of take matters into its own hands, right? The defense held up in the first half for the most part. Took till the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, for Purdue to break 200 total yards.
Yeah.
There's a lot for Nebraska to both build on and clean up. But the difference from this week, from last week to this week, is that Nebraska found a way to win the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty. A lot of the same issues were there. But guess what? You overmatched Purdue at the end of the game. Your talent finally started to show through. And it's the same conversation, but it feels like a different conversation after a win.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I mean, there was a lot of areas to certainly discuss, and once Jay gets here in just a few minutes, we will dive deep into a lot of that, especially special teams, if you will. Nebraska, like Austin said, not great on third downs. Nebraska finishes 1 for 8 on third down attempts. They didn't have that many opportunities at a third down. They had 25 first downs. More than double the amount of the Boilermakers, sat there with 12 first downs. Big topic is certainly the penalties. Nebraska finishes with 11 penalties and 94 yards. With penalties, Purdue 13 flags for 165 yards. Nebraska, though, with that 160, even I mean, in the third quarter, on the drive that Nebraska scored their first touchdown of the game on, they only had 39 yards of offense on that drive. The rest was penalties, thanks to the Boilermakers. And it felt, I mean, even in the first half, as ugly as it was, and mostly when Nebraska was outside of their 20-yard line, or farther away from the end zone, Purdue could not match up with Nebraska's wideouts. Like, you saw a clear talent discrepancy when it came to Purdue trying to guard Nebraska's wide receivers. And we saw that with countless pass interference calls.
Well, that was Nebraska's best offense for most of the game. Was, hey, let's get Dylan Raiola to pick out which one-on-one matchup he wants to target, and then just hope Purdue's defensive back doesn't look back for the ball.
Exactly. So once again, Nebraska wins 28-10 today. Let's talk running backs here to start, Austin, before we take our first time out. Nebraska, let's take Ja'Cory Barney Jr. out of this conversation. If you just look at Nebraska's running backs, and obviously it's Dylan Raiola's sack for 8-yard loss is included in this. So I'm going to try to do quick math here. You would have approximately 103 yards of rushing, if I did my math correctly there. 14, 18, 32, 21 is 53, plus 50 is 103 yards of rushing.
According to Stat Broadcast, sack adjusted rush yards, Nebraska had 169.
Okay, so then let's
but
go.
minus Barney, right?
Yeah, minus
yes,
Barney.
103
yeah,
minus Barney.
Minus Barney, yeah.
Yes, 103.
Discussing running backs.
Yes.
You saw, obviously, Dante Dowdell at the start, and he got 9 carries in today's game. But then in the third quarter, about halfway through, you saw them shift and try to bring in Emmett Johnson a little bit more. Provides a little bit more wiggle. Still tough enough to run in between tackles, though.
Absolutely. Emmett Johnson did today what he did last season, right? I don't say everyone wrote Emmett Johnson off, but he wasn't receiving a lot of playing time, not a lot of carries. It was a different reason for that last year versus this year. Emmett Johnson became the feature back today, and he took full advantage of it. And that's a credit to the young man, right? For staying engaged, staying in tune. And it seems like that's a guy you want to keep around, right? I get the loyalty to Amir Johnson, who also seems like a Matt Rule guy. He stuck it out with this program. He's versatile, just a football player. But if there's not that much difference between Amir Johnson and Emmett Johnson looks like he can be a useful part of this team in the future. And I was confused as to why it was Ramir Johnson over Emmett Johnson to start the year. What a breakout day for him. Had the longest run of the day by a running back and got the most consistent yards as well. It wasn't just the one big play.
Let's with that bring in Jay Foreman. Jay, initial thoughts on Nebraska's victory.
Where you going, Austin?
I got audio to cut up for you. Phone calls to take. So I'm going to do my job. You can do yours. Team player.
Yeah, how about this guy?
Yeah, I like
Dang. Little fire right from the get-go.
Good to see you, though.
Yeah, that's what I like. But I always enjoy Austin being in here. I mean, look, a win is a win. 28-10, you won by 18, and so it was not pretty, definitely in the first half. The first half was one of those halves that is not going to be shown at the coaches' clinic. Nebraska, I mean, obviously, right, with penalties, missed field goals, snap and hold, and, the kicker is going to take, a lot of heat. But when the snap and the hold isn't good, the chances of making any kick is not very good. And so, there's a lot of blame, I guess, potentially could go around with the penalties on both sides. Nebraska and Purdue. It was a little bit very sloppy game. Refs did not help. Even on the offensive pass interference was a bad call. It's a predetermined call.
Yeah.
And it's probably a call set up by Ryan Walters talking to the refs before, but it actually didn't come to fruition. So the refs came out there with a premeditated call. But ultimately in the second half, which is great, Nebraska, you know what really was the turning point in the game, oddly enough, was Brian Buschini, who at the time that he made the tackle was tied for being the leading tackler on the team, blew up Purdue's returner on a return in the second half. And the crowd got hyped, or not the crowd, but the sideline got hyped, and the rest is history. He started to get to the quarterback a little bit, and with obviously MJ Sherman doing well, James doing well. It was good to see Kai Whalen. Jamari Butler kind of got the party started with a tackle for loss in the second half, and then John Bullock, who quiet is kept, has been their best defensive player. I thought Gifford played well. I thought Singleton came up and hit. And let's give it up to my man Sierra Wright. I mean, straight. Hey, listen, I know Tommy Hill's out, but homeboy for the second game in a row. Now it's just 2 games. Is straight up balling, and it's not. Now it's not. In the first game against Illinois, it's like, oh, it's it's short.
Yeah.
Just a little taste of it. You got a whole game's worth. And so for the Nebraska coaches, weirdly enough, I know we got to go to break. Is like as bad as they played in the first half, and then eventually kind of got out of their own way in the second half. The only good thing coming out of this game, or 2 things. One, we scored 28 points in the second half.
Yeah.
Right.
21 in the fourth. I mean,
21 in the fourth.
That's the one that is kind of bigger for me, because that's something that you have not done the first 4 games.
Haven't done, and it showed. We're more physical.
Yeah.
We became tougher. And then number 2 is, even though we won, and we won ugly, we didn't lose and lose ugly. And I hopefully have your attention from whatever day, the very first minute we have meetings and corrections come Monday or whenever they have, because now you've seen 2 different ways overall. I'm talking about start to finish, not to our standards. And we lost, and then we won. Well, okay. When are we going to get tired of playing with our food per se?
Yeah.
And let's go out there and eat what we kill, and start a game and get out of our own way and finish drives, make kicks, touchdowns, no penalties. Let's start out being physical on defense. Let's not let Maccabee, get hit 2 yards in the backfield and somehow churn his legs and get a first down. Did we play with the, right leverage as far as a couple guys were in the same gap, and then you gave up a couple runs, and then boom, the second half, whatever was said at halftime. So for the people out there talking about adjustments, obviously there was an adjustment at halftime, whether it was scheme, but more importantly, Nick, attitude adjustment. And yes, West Lafayette is hard to play at 11 a.m. But you know what I tell?
It's sleepy, man.
You know what I tell the Nebraska players? Nobody cares. I don't give a damn. Nobody wants to hear that you're playing at 11 a.m. in West Lafayette. Go out there and do what you need to do. And so, I'm sure that they have a good feeling that they're able to turn it on. But let's also not just be so in love with the second half, and particularly, like you said, the fourth quarter, that we don't recognize the first, second, and the first part of the third quarter.
Yeah, I think you can do both. You can be realistic with the first half and look at it with a big view. But then also the fourth quarter, I was just doing the math in my head here. Nebraska, I would also talk about the way that they won and pulled away in the fourth quarter.
I mean, let's be honest. Let's just be, look, we're in the circle of trust.
Circle of trust.
Ticket listeners, are we in the circle of trust? It was Minnesota strong right there.
It was.
It's Emmett Johnson, Minnesota tough, Minnesota strong. That's just the way it is. And yes, Ramir Johnson is good. Yes, Dante Dowdell is good. But when you need,
You saw a difference.
when you needed somebody, listen. When you play football in Minnesota, okay, and when you play running back, you know what the dead leg is. It was started by Chuck Foreman. It is taught by every single high school coach out there. And when you're in a game like this, you got to make people miss.
Yeah.
You got to take what you can take, and then when you get a chance, you got to be explosive. And it's also a credit to EJ Barthwell, right? Give him a credit.
Yeah.
Where he's developed the whole running back room for Gabe Irvin to kind of come in and ran that kind of like running back sweep to the right. He should have got in, but he didn't. Then Dante got in, but Emmett Johnson was the party starter. Sat around for almost 2 weeks, right? He didn't play really last week against Illinois.
No.
He did his thing against Northern Iowa late, but he didn't get any. But look, I know whatever. You can say whatever about the running back coach you want. He's got 4 running backs that are capable, but Emmett is showing you a little something, and he showed it last year. For whatever reason, he seems to always get looked overlooked. But every time, he answers the bell.
That's exactly what Austin and I were saying when we were watching the final minutes. It was like every time that we're ready to discredit or forget about or move on from Emmett Johnson being the potential starter and leader in that room, he bursts onto the scene. What I was going to say from an offensive play calling perspective, everybody wants to always get mad at Marcus Satterfield for play calling. Nebraska ran 15 plays in the fourth quarter. 11 of those were runs.
Oh yeah, they started.
That is what we hear about what they want to do.
Right. They got questioned last week.
And
right. Yeah, and you don't call plays to appease the masses. No. You call plays to appease the players and win the game. But Marcus Satterfield saw that. And maybe this is what he knew, and maybe this is what they thought coming into the game.
Yeah,
that we're going to soften them up because Dylan Raiola got off hot.
Yeah,
we're going to soften you up by a efficient and effective pass game, and then bludgeon you later with the run game. Now the problem was in the first half that when you were trying to do what I just said, you had multitude of penalties.
Yeah,
that stymied every single progress along with the special teams areas. So they stuck to the game plan. They were able to finish the game like they wanted. And then magically, for everybody out there that wants I guess I'll call it the quick glance look that it looks pretty, magically, you start to bludgeon them. You start to get on a run. Well, then Purdue starts to press. John Bullock gets a interception for a touchdown. Right, that's great for Tony White and the defense to come back.
Yeah.
Then then Nebraska and their pass rushers get to pin their ears back, and essentially pass rush. James, MJ Sherman start to get to the quarterback. Then you're like, oh, okay, I see what happens. Now you're not questioning the 3-3-5 so much, right?
Yeah.
Now you're like, okay, the defense was able to do some things, playing with the lead. But the lead came from a change of attitude at halftime, a wake-up call. So whatever they said to them at halftime is the same thing that you need to say to them before next week's game. But more importantly, in that locker room, when the captains are talking or the leaders are talking, you have to celebrate every single win because it's very hard to win in the Big Ten. It is. It's very hard to win in the Big Ten. It is your 4th win of the season. You're 4-1. You're able to bounce back. But you also have to make sure that you shake everybody up enough that they understand what we've done to this point is not good enough. Based on the talent that we have, the culture, the talent, and the opportunity. So as we approach next week, which is Rutgers, which is going to be the best team that we've played, not saying that they're unbeatable, because Washington essentially beat the brakes off them last night, but didn't win the game. So we're going to play our best team that we've played. So that means we have to have our truly, Nick, our best preparation, and it actually starts tonight. Tonight, it starts the preparation.
Yeah, Nebraska hosts Rutgers next Saturday. It's homecoming, 3 p.m. kickoff, so afternoon kick for that one on Fox Sports 1. Jay, definitely want to get the thoughts on the special team stuff going on. because obviously Nebraska does go 0 on field goal attempts today, but it wasn't just the kicker fault. It goes back to the execution piece that we talked quite a bit about last week. So go ahead and send us to break, Jay, and let's talk about that next.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. Jay Foreman post-game show. We'll dive into special teams, and everybody wants to point the finger. But more importantly, we're going to address some of the issues and then look for solutions. I think that's the best thing to do. Then also we want to take your calls and texts, and then we'll take your questions. So in this next 6 minutes, give us all your questions and be ready to call in. Jay Foreman post-game show. We'll be right back.
Tanner's Bar and Grill is the best place in Lincoln for a casual get-together, best place to watch a game, and the best for pre- and post-game. Catch college and NFL football as well as the volleyball action this season at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. What's better than wings, cold beer, and a Husker win? Enjoy great food and drink specials every day and tons of TVs to catch all the action. Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill.
This is Chris Elgert, loan originator at Lincoln Federal. With over 20 years in the industry, I have found it's extremely gratifying to solve my customers' home financing needs and then show them the options and strategies available for them to fulfill their goals. But my biggest reward comes when I watch my valued customers experience the American dream of home ownership and move into their new home. Talk with me about your home loan at Lincoln Federal and Go Big Red. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Personal banking like you remember.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Lease a 2024 Ford F-150 for $437 per month for 36 months. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004120, $437 per month, lease for 36 months with approved credit, 7,500 miles per year, 5,500 due signing, no security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 9/30/2024. See dealer for details.
I can't believe I just scratched that card. Find my insurance card.
Dude, what do you have in this glove box? Ew, are these socks dirty?
Oh, forget about the socks. I need my insurance card.
Just pull it up on the State Farm mobile app.
But I can do that? Oh, hey, I can do that.
Yeah, it's called service.
I can file a claim on here too?
Yeah, it's called service.
Whoa, I can call my agent too?
It's called service.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started. It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Sea-Doo dealership. Score up to $300 off or a free 2-year warranty on 2024 Sea-Doo Sparks and $500 off or a free 2-year warranty on all other brand new 2024 Sea-Doos. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of September. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with a large selection of motorcycles and watercraft in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best boxing on Saturday, October 5th with Roughnecks at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. 8 bouts are scheduled for the night, including the main event of Dwayne Johnson and Jack Lawless Frericks in the professional middleweight championship bout. Doors open at 6 p.m. with first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the boxers and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day, because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
It's the best time of the year to order a new John Deere self-propelled windrower from Landmark Implement during the early order program. Hay harvest is a race against time. Order a new John Deere self-propelled windrower to harvest your hay quickly and efficiently while promoting quick dry down for quality hay. Now is the time to lock in the best price of the year. Contact your local Landmark location for full details on a new self-propelled windrower and experience the Landmark difference.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Hey, Nebraska football fans, it's defensive lineman Ty Robinson, and I've got a winning play for you with Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Team up with Action and install a new Bradford white water heater in your home. And if we win the conference championship this season, you'll get a full refund. Don't fumble this opportunity. Sack your old water heater this season and score big with Action. Visit actionlincoln.com/Huskers to learn more.
Promotion valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I can't believe I just scratched that card. Find my insurance card.
Dude, what do you have in this glove box? Ew, are these socks dirty?
Oh, forget about the socks. I need my insurance card.
Just pull it up on the State Farm mobile app.
But I can do that? Oh, hey, I can do that.
Yep, it's called service.
I can file a claim on here too?
Yeah, it's called service.
Whoa, I can call my agent too?
It's called service.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinny Krekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
We're back, Jay Foreman Postgame Show with my man with the plan, Nick Sainert on the ones and twos. We want to thank Action Plumbing, Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Krekak, State Farm, and Elway Power Sports of Lincoln supporting the after game show, especially after how the last two games and 2 weekends have gone. But nevertheless, Nebraska was able to pull through with a victory. We alluded to it before we went to break. Special teams were not so special as far as the kicking game goes. And the one thing I will say this before we get into it, and
we do have a phone call.
We have phone calls. Before we get into the phone call, is that from me, especially playing in the pros, I can only go from personal experience. And feel freely to tell you about personal experience when you're in these type of situations where when I went to Buffalo, we had Ethan Albright, Chris Moore, and Steve Christie. They've worked together for years. They were excellent at what they did. Ethan was one of the best snappers in the league, ended up making a Pro Bowl. Chris Moore was a great punter, had phenomenal hands, a great athlete, played at Alabama. And Steve Christie was a legendary kicker in Buffalo Bills history. And I was on the wing as far as field goal protection. And when they explained to me, all I needed to do was get a hand on guys because the snap, hold, and kick was impeccable. We saw that today on display. And when you don't have a good snap and or a hold, the kick and the kick percentage to make goes down immensely. On top of it, your best kicker is still coming back from off-season surgery. You need to get him fully right, not 80%. Because when you're a kicker, this is one thing also as I started to become a little bit older as far as in Nebraska when I was in college, junior, senior year, and then in the pros, the kickers have a hard job and you want to welcome them and be a part of it. So you start to befriend them. And obviously I was lucky enough to play with Chris Brown when I was in the pros and ask him and dive into his mind. Number one, because he was a great athlete, but number two, he was a kicker. What does it take to be a kicker? I went out to one practice, Nick, and I tried to kick a field goal. And I felt like my hamstring came off the bone. But ultimately, when he went into what he has to have happen in order for him to just make an extra point, let alone a field goal, I respect the kickers. Now, where we're at right now, especially after last week, losing by a touchdown, could have had a field goal, stymied by the snap and hold. Then you come to this week, missed the first field goal, snap, hold, and the ball end up going into the back of like the offensive guy, essentially was never going to be able to make it. Those are things that you have to make sure that are addressed immediately. You have to figure out and find answers. This is, and the hard thing about being a specialist is, so what I call a specialist is the punter, the kicker, snapper. They're very special because they're not sexy jobs. They're not jobs that you go to, like in this case, in high school, you're not going to Miller South.
Yeah.
They're recruiting every receiver, tight end, or whatever. They're not doing that. You're not really highly recruited. Hall has to have some talent because he won I think it's the Coles kicker of the year. So that means at a kicking camp, he was the best kicker. So he knows how to kick. And so you got to find where he's comfortable or what he likes to do. But then also the snap and hold needs to be a little bit better.
Let's go to the phone lines. Honda of Lincoln Hotline, 402-464-5685. We got Will on the line. Will, you're on the show, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for having me. This is Will, ex-Notre Dame fan, and now just realized I'm a Husker. I've been a Husker fan for 30 years. What I want to talk about is just the missed field goal in the first half. That's in the first quarter. That's pretty much when I stopped watching the game. But prior to that, there was a there was a 4th and 1. Nebraska was going to go for it, and then one of our experienced linemen false starts. Like, I don't know. It almost seems like the players that have been here, for the last 3-4 years, I think they're traumatized or something because they panic. I mean, I don't know. They need therapy or they need to heal, or Husker Nation needs to heal, but we can't have that anymore, Granted, we won. I'm happy, but I'm still upset. What say you?
Appreciate it, Will. Yeah, that's the one he was talking about, Bryce Benhart. I tweeted it out. Bryce Benhart making his 46th career start today, and jumped early on that 4th and 1. That Nebraska was going to go for it. Ultimately, ended up 4th and 6.
Yeah, you never want those. I call them, those are self-inflicted wounds. I always say that, if you're going into a 12-round world heavyweight title fight against Bud Crawford, Mike Tyson, you want to start punching yourself in the face. And so that's what happened. And so you don't expect it and can't have it from your senior players. He knows that. And I like that you're trying to get a little bit of a head start and get off on the ball, right? Because that's one thing that's been this change when Donnie has came in as an offensive line coach. He wants them to surge off the ball. But you also have to understand where you're at, the situation, and the stipulations of you being a little bit anxious. And for Bryce Benhart and any lineman that played before Matt Rule got here, you just you're paying for your past sins. And so that's 5 more yards for the for the field goal. It's just not a positive play. It takes the momentum away from you as an offense. And also when I always say that when you go for it on 4th down, there's this buildup. Can we get it? What are you going to call? Do we get it? And when you get it, if you do make that 4th, say you make it in 4th and 2, 4th and 1, or whatever it has to be, it's almost like double, because you defeat the opposing team on fourth down to get the first down. So that's a win. But then also, you know that you're going to get 3 more downs. And so you're able to deposit 3 more physicality plays potentially that can help you later in the game. And so the penalties, obviously, is something that, I'm sure that they're going to try to address. But then ultimately, you can't control the officials. I felt like the officials were reeling from the start. The big call in the first half was the missed call on the offensive pass interference, and then they were hoping and praying that the screen pass, essentially they ran a crossing route with a delayed running back to the opposite flat. They were hoping that it was behind the line of scrimmage. So if it was behind the line of scrimmage, then it wouldn't have been offensive pass interference. It clearly was never behind the line of scrimmage. And so now they just had a huge missed call that could have potentially stymied Nebraska from winning the game. Now, how as a team do you get past that? One, you play better early, right? You complete the field goal, the drives, and all that. It takes the angst of the refs to throw flags. But then ultimately, when you get into a game and you're a high penalty type of team, you don't complete drives. It starts to be an ugly, sloppy game. That's how you get in the dogfight. Now, here's the positive: Nebraska's able to circle the wagons, get their stuff together. Whatever happened at halftime was great. They were able to get it going, and then really, really, explode in the fourth quarter. But it's the same thing that we're saying now, but just a different fashion with Northern Iowa. Now it's time for you really to grow up, because you're going to face your best opponent here in a week. So whatever you've done as far as your preparation individually as a player is good enough to be, a little bit above average, or, kind of, I guess, a 25 to 32 team, right? As far as rankings.
Yeah.
You need to crank it up a little bit.
Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Jay, as a former defender yourself, how are you grading the overall defense? Because there were penalties, sure. A lot of them were offensively. Mm-hmm. But Nebraska, their defense, there was drives that Purdue started at their own 47-yard line that resulted in negative 13 yards when it was all said and done. It really felt like, considering the opponent, sure, the 34-3 victory against Northern Iowa, right? Nebraska allowed them to take a long drive right to start the game, Northern Iowa. But ultimately, Nebraska's defense settled in. Colorado was fine too. Considering the opponent, considering the body types that Nebraska's lining up against, what is it wrong to say that this felt like Nebraska's most complete defensive performance? Obviously, there's things you want to work on.
Yeah,
after the pressure could have been better, but Nebraska essentially allowed 3 points for three and a half quarters.
I would say it's probably their best defensive performance, but it's still not good enough.
Well, no.
Right? So, so I'm not trying to rain on the parade, but yes, they started a little slow. And it's also a factor here, Nick, is like, I also look at the opportunities that they've had to make big plays, especially at the beginning of the game, where you have a chance to make a tackle in the backfield and you slip off of them, and then allows Purdue's offensive linemen to kind of get in the face of the secondary defenders or the second level defenders. And then it turns from a, 0 gain, maybe a negative yard gain, 1 or 2, to a 3, 4, 5 yard gain. That's what I want to see them get better at. Make the plays when you're there, you're unblocked, a couple of defensive linemen, you slide off of him, and then he gets momentum and he gets 3 yards out of it. Well, that's a big difference between getting 3 positive yards or 3 negative yards. And so that's what the first couple series were like. Then they settled in. The only thing that I could say that they need to get better at was third down efficiency, 7 of 15. Purdue was. That's it. They found a way to lock in and hunker in against the run against Huckabee. They started to get more pressure, and started to close, right? It's one thing to get pressure, but then also I call it closing percentage, which I was fortunate enough to play with Grant Wistrom and Jason Peter and Jared Thomas. They would close. They get close, you're going down.
Yeah.
And the first half, that didn't happen. Second half, it did. So that's where you like to see them take the second step, because you saw last week against Illinois, the times that they got close, they didn't close. They closed this week. I felt like the linebackers were just a little bit more in tune to their run fits, were a little bit more, I guess, physical, and then which led to them to be really, really effective with John Bullock, taking a pick to the crib is good. And so I think Tony White is like, hey, we took a step in the right direction. Matt Rule as well, because when you go into halftime 0-0 with the way that the offense had moving the ball and kind of not doing anything, the defense had their, was playing again, kind of with their backs against the wall pretty much the whole first half. To hold your head above water, to tread water, and then to be able to continue along it and not run out of gas is really, really good. And you saw Kai Whalen get in there and get busy. You finally saw MJ Sherman have 1.5 sacks. You saw my man James, who they call Sack Man, have a couple sacks. So you start to see the depth of pass rushers to do well. But then it was also really, really good to where you had Boodle's brother come in, Buford's brother come in after Sierra Wright got hurt, and then he came back, and then he made some big plays. I thought Isaac Gifford played really, really well. I felt like Singleton played really, really well. I think Hartzog, even though a couple times the tight ends caught up passes on him, I think he had good coverage, and he made really good tackles, so that's good. And then I think Buford at the corner, Marcus Buford, it did really well where he really didn't get tested. So ultimately, Tony White, in my opinion, is talking to him like, we took a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's commendable after a hard week to bounce back. But we need to take another step to get back to where I know we can go as a defense, and then everything will be all right.
Here's what Matt Rule had to say about the defense post-game.
I thought the defense, was terrific throughout. But the offense, the offense punted twice. They just up and down the field, just a couple of crucial penalties hurt us, and then obviously if you're able to make some, so you're down inside the 35. I think, I don't know how many times we crossed the 35-yard line. Those are, 3, I think 1 missed, and 2 bad snap that led to blocked field goals, right, which were unfortunate. I love the fact that they didn't flinch. They didn't flinch. At halftime, I told them this is exactly where I felt like our team needed to be, to come off the heartbreak of last week, a game that nothing went right in terms of like one play goes right, might win that game last week. To come back, I don't know what the narrative, I don't know what's been like around here before that, but a lot of times teams, they come off that heartbreak and they don't play great the next week that I've been a part of. So I thought for our team to bounce back, Tommy tried to go, he couldn't go. Guys are down, guys step up. We played a lot of guys today. And things not go exactly right. I thought it was exactly what we needed, to be quite honest. I'm glad it ended up 28-10, but that was a game we had to fight for, and guys had to make plays, and had some tough calls go against us in the first half, and the guys. In fact, if anything, they were telling me to keep my composure. So appreciate those guys.
I think there's something to be said, Jay. We sat here last Friday and said it never felt like, despite Nebraska playing against Illinois and having a lead at times, it never felt like they had momentum. It never felt like they really had control of the game.
Right.
Today,
it
was the opposite after their first touchdown. I thought I sat there before. I got to find the drive here. But they forced a 3-and-out immediately the drive after they scored their first touchdown.
Yeah.
They forced a 3-and-out. They got the ball back. Nebraska did with 1 minute and 4 seconds left. And they started their drive at their own 37-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and kind of thought to myself, this is their opportunity to take control. Now, obviously, you didn't know that Bullock was going to get a pick six, and you didn't know what was going to happen later on. But Nebraska then goes 5 minutes and 30 seconds, chews up 5 minutes and 30 seconds, 10 plays, 63 yards, and scores that touchdown. That was impressive for me because that was what they didn't do last week.
Yeah, when there was blood in the water, we just kind of didn't go in for the kill last week, and it was good to see them take advantage. And a lot of times over the history of Nebraska and recent history, when you got the lead, and we saw this on display last week, then the defense like, oh, we got the lead, so let's just kind of chill and go out there. And then all of a sudden, last week, Illinois just goes right down the field and tie the game up. Where this game, obviously, the cherry on top was John Bullock to getting the interception for a touchdown. The defense decided to ramp it up, and for them to answer the bell every single time is something that Matt Rule and Tony White and the players should be proud of. And then also the offense be able to be a little bit more consistent. And you got to think, right, man, where Dante Dowdell, where they were kind of keying on him in early parts of the game. They really weren't like purposely running the ball. It was like, all right, I
didn't feel like the offensive line was really moving the line of scrimmage.
Right, I felt like they were just. I felt like we came out, ran at the first play, and then it was like, all right, we're gonna kind of like loosen them up a little bit, and then we'd run it just because it felt like.
I would agree.
And so they were, they were stepping up and hey, they were tagging him a little bit. 31 met him in the hole on a 3rd and 2, and it was end up being 4th and 1. And then, you got to think if you have an Emmitt Smith, and then obviously Ramir had a touchdown called back, should not have. You have your guys that aren't your starters being locked in and ready is something that they can lean on in the future, because Emmitt came in and ran the ball and provided a sense of physicality, playmaking ability in the sense of making guys miss in the phone booth, but then also finishing runs and bringing energy. And then Dante Dowdell got it in the end zone. And then next thing you know, we continued to pass the ball. You saw Thomas Fedoni, you saw some other guys, Banks and Nair, making some plays. And then also you were aided by Purdue's inability to guard our receivers one-on-one. And so our offense was more efficient than it looks because of the penalties. But that's something that we didn't see before. And also I think it was a change in play calling that we really gave confidence to our freshman quarterback, our receivers, and skill position guys. And then what should make people happy versus last week, in the fourth quarter, you decide to lean on your offensive line, and they actually executed. And so it's good. And I want to give a shout out to Gunnar Gatula. For a kid, he's a local kid from Southeast, big, strong kid, looks the part, doesn't really look out of place ever since he's been here, really, to be honest with you. Was not projected to be a starter, coming into the season, whether it was Teddy or Turner. It went from Teddy got hurt, Turner got hurt. He goes in, didn't really look out of place against Illinois. Maybe got shook up on a couple plays, obviously jumped off sides, but then the growth, and it's just one game where he was able to go in there. He didn't have any pre-snap penalties. He always looked like he knew where he was going and what he was doing. You want to give a shout out to him because it's a credit to Donnie as a coach, but then also for them to recruit, but then also for the player to embrace the moment, because there's a lot of pressure as a redshirt freshman to go in and try to earn your keep, but then also protect the former number one recruit in the previous class, and also be a big part of the offense. And so for Nebraska to win today, it's better to win ugly than lose ugly, which we've seen last week. But we can't continue to have these conversations.
It was interesting. So you mentioned Gatula. I'll also throw in Henry Lutovsky into that conversation.
Yep.
The reason being, he made a play, an effort play, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. It was in the fourth quarter, the drive that Ja'Cory Barney ended up scoring a 25-yard touchdown run on. 2 plays before that touchdown run, it was just a little dump off to Emmett Johnson from Raiola, and Lutovsky was running down the field 2 or 3 yards ahead of Emmett and laid out a Purdue defender. It was the same play that ended up getting a face mask. Like, those little things happen. Henry Lutovsky, I made a comment in the pregame show. This is a guy that is making his 30th career appearance for Nebraska. Henry Lutovsky was today. It was his 7th start, but he's seen game time. And Nebraska, I thought, despite, like we just kind of mentioned, in the first half not getting a big push offensively, there was a noticeable shift and maybe just a little bit of a change in the second half. All right, Jay, one more clip from Matt Rule and Nebraska. I know there's a lot of questions. We've gotten a couple of texts regarding Micah Mazuka. Matt Rule didn't have much to say about it. Here's what head coach had to say, if I can play it.
No, it's not by him today. I'll talk about Monday. Yeah, I mean, he's not off the team, but he's not here today.
So there you go. He's not off the team, not here today.
Micah Mazuka will get more on the usual starting right guard on Monday from the head coach. All right, Jay, we got a lot of text to get to. We got one more break to get into.
We'll get to him next segment. This is Jay Foreman Postgame Show. We'll dive into the short and very clear answer from Coach Matt Rule, but then also we'll answer and evaluate all your texts. Jay Foreman Postgame Show. We'll be right back.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
I can't believe I just scratched that car. Find my insurance card.
Dude, what do you have in this glove box? Ew, are these socks dirty?
Oh, forget about the socks. I need my insurance card.
Just pull it up on the State Farm mobile app.
But I can do that? Oh, hey, I can do that.
Yep, it's called service.
I can file a claim on here too?
Yeah, it's called service.
Whoa, I can call my agent too?
It's called service.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Hey, bestie. Whoa, how'd you snag that awesome set of wheels? I'm in the market for a new car, too. My friends at Members Own Credit Union. You're always in the driver's seat when it comes to your finances at Members Own. Always in the driver's seat, huh? Yep. They set you up with a loan that makes sense for your budget with great rates and top-notch customer service to boot. Looks like we're going to need to make a pit stop. Let's go. I'll drive. Hit the road to financial success and explore auto loan options with your best financial friend, Members Own Credit Union. For details, go to membersowncu.org/drive. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Ready to hit the road in style? Liberty First Credit Union is revving up your ride with unbeatable auto loan specials. Cruise away with rates as low as 4.79% APR for 48 months on a 2020 or newer vehicle. Need a longer term? No worries. They've got you covered with 4.89 APR for 60 months and 4.99 APR for 72 months. Hurry, these rates are cruising fast, so don't get left in the dust. Visit libertyfirstcu.com. Credit factors apply. Rates, terms, and conditions subject to change.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call John Henry's at 402-435-5555 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-435-5555.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
With a wide variety of menu options, including the best prime and Wagyu steaks in Lincoln, if you haven't been to Tavern 180, you're missing out. Try any of their steak options paired with one of their well-known martinis, and this will soon become your favorite date night spot. Call your friends for a casual get-together where steak, shrimp, chicken, and tasty cocktails await your arrival. Tavern 180, located next door to Tanner's at 30th and Yankee Hill.
Once in a lifetime event. You miss it, it's gone forever. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary extravaganza.
Maybe a little dramatic, but you get the point. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary. Our celebration means savings for you on top names throughout our huge TV gallery. Plus, save hundreds on Serta, Beauty Rest, and Sutherland mattress sets, and get free delivery on your qualified purchase. Hurry in for the savings during Schaefer's 78th anniversary event.
Mindel Footwear is your solution against sore feet, blisters, and poor footing. Don't just take our word for it. Take it from Sip, who said he's never had a pair of boots more comfortable. You won't find Mindel Footwear in any store sold exclusively at MindelUSA.com right out of Sidney, Nebraska. They're so confident you will enjoy the comfort their boots offer. If they don't work out for you, they'll cover the shipping to return them. Use code THETICKET for free shipping because your feet deserve a treat too. Mindel boots, just try them on.
Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best boxing on Saturday, October 5th with Roughnecks at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. 8 bouts are scheduled for the night, including the main event of Dwayne Johnson and Jack Lawless Frericks in the professional middleweight championship bout. Doors open at 6 p.m. with first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the boxers and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Lease a 2024 Ford F-150 for $437 per month for 36 months. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004120, $437 per month, lease for 36 months with approved credit, 7,500 miles per year, 5,500 due at signing, no security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 9/30/2024. See dealer for details.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Sea-Doo dealership. Score up to $300 off or a free 2-year warranty on 2024 Sea-Doo Sparks and $500 off or a free 2-year warranty on all other brand new 2024 Sea-Doos. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of September. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with a large selection of motorcycles and watercraft in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
What up, we're back. Jay Foreman Postgame Show after a victory. Nebraska 28, Purdue 10, victory in West Lafayette. Probably the most boringest place in Big Ten.
Not the easiest place to get to either.
Not the easiest place to get to. Not the easiest place to create your own energy and your juice to get going.
For sure.
Obviously, Nebraska was asleep at the wheel the first half. But nevertheless, turned it on the second half. We got some texts to get to. And do we have some calls too, Nick?
No, just texts right now.
Let's see
we're open to calls. We're here for 10 more minutes or so before we hand it off to Austin and Chancellor.
Okay.
So we got that. How about this one? Greg from Lincoln. Jay, how do you explain going a full half without scoring against a really average Purdue defense?
Well, here's also the thing, and this is not – first of all, let me say this before we get into this. Nebraska's offense and defense output in the first half was not good enough. But you also have to understand when you have a coach in the situation that they're in, and with Nebraska where they're at with their youth on offense, right? You have a 19-year-old quarterback and a offense and the offensive coordinator trying to figure out what they're doing. Their back's against the wall, so you got to expect their best shot. Also, Purdue against Notre Dame, they feel like they played better against Oregon State, right?
Yeah.
So you expect their best shot. And then the refs probably had a little bit of an off day. Missing a big call because if Nebraska gets that touchdown, I think the floodgates open early. It changed the dynamics of the game. But ultimately, yes, they didn't score enough points. They weren't efficient enough because of the penalties that shot them in the foot, so forth and so on. And to get to where Nebraska wants to get to this year, they have to fix that immediately, which is obviously right now or the next time that they practice. Obviously, it's going to be a big emphasis as far as execution and efficiency and the lack of penalties, or the penalties have to be cut easily in half or very minimal. Because when Nebraska stays out of their own way, they look pretty dang good on offense.
We're having a couple listeners are on our YouTube stream chatting back and forth about Dylan Raiola's ability to throw the deep ball. Where are you at on that? Assess Dylan's ability to throw the deep ball and what you're seeing.
I think it's a learning process for any quarterback on how to throw the deep ball, especially when you make the transition from, I guess where he played high level high school football to major, I would say pre-pro football. It is different. It's something that you got to constantly work on. It's one thing to throw with your wide receiver mates, with no coverage, in the off season. And obviously sometimes in practice with, you practice all the way up until you do 50-50. And so I think it's a learning process for him to learn how to lead receivers in the major, in the Power 5 or Power 4 conference in football versus high school. I think as he matures, he'll know that, and it's not an arm strength thing. If you're trying to allude to that, I think it's an experience thing, and just letting it rip. And it's something that he's gotten better at. But they also, right now, depending on the officials, you're able, especially this game, you're able to get a high volume of pass interference calls. Now that's on Purdue as well, because their defensive backs never look back like they're making a play on the ball. But ultimately, I'm sure they're talking about the ability to lead some of the receivers that have a step or two on their defender, which would lead to potentially a catch and explosive play or a catch and a touchdown.
One more about the offense. Corey and Lincoln says anybody with, and this is more of a comment, anybody with eyeballs can see that Emmett Johnson's the best back. He pops and shifts in ways that the other guys don't.
I mean, styles make fights, right? I mean, and look, against Colorado, I think it'd be hard pressed for anybody to say Dante Dowdell had not separated himself, right?
Yeah.
That was what we came in and talked about because of his straight line, getting to the second and third level, physicality, knocking Shiloh Sanders out of the game into the way that he was straight ahead, rock him steady. But I will say this, the one guy that has continued every single game, whether it was small doses or in this game, big doses, carrying the ball or catching it out of the backfield, has been Emmett Johnson. And so I understand that comment. I think quietly, Coach EJ has done a really good job of developing 4 running backs. Dante, who started a little bit slow coming from Oregon. Emmett, obviously continuing on the growth from his freshman year last year. Gabe Irvin, now you're continuing on the growth that he had up until he got hurt, and then obviously rehabbing, getting in better, and now you're starting to see him a little bit more ready. And then also you have Ramir, who I think came back and is a jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife. And obviously, if that was a bad missed call, it was a bad call that they made and they missed it. They couldn't overturn it. That's a touchdown for him. And then you're talking about, okay, if Emmett does what he does, Dante Dowdell did what he's done, even though it wasn't very good as far as conventional running. Emmett took that over, and then you were able to get a screen pass to Ramir. You're like, oh, that running back room is pretty solid.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Emmett because the way that he was able to come in and bring a different type of running style to this game, he mixed physicality and ability to make guys miss. And I think people always get this make guys miss like clouded. They view make guys miss that you're out in open field, you give a super fake and you break somebody's ankle and then you go 80.
Yeah.
Making somebody miss is taking a 2-yard gain and then finding ways to make it a 4, 4.5, 5, possibly 6-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
What that does is it allows Marcus Satterfield, Dylan Raiola, and everybody else on offense to be at the chains or ahead of the chains and at this on schedule or ahead of schedule, so you can continue to be systematically aggressive. And that's how the offense was able to be explosive.
We saw that in the second half, especially because Emmett Johnson was getting 8 yards on first down, and it makes it a 2nd and 2 rather than a 2nd and 9.
Right. And Emmett didn't really play much in the first half, and they were more pass heavy in the first half. And so once he started to get in and started to make his moves, and then he did a really good job in the pass game as well, and set up his blocks and ran really, really good behind the way the offense was running and the defense was playing. And the one drive, look, he essentially put the offense on his back. Now, obviously, it was the run and pass all the way down there. And then when they went to timeout, came back, gave it to Dowdell, and then all of a sudden the floodgates were open. You saw him throw to Banks a couple times on a second level route where Dylan Raiola is able to thread it over the secondary defenders or second level defenders, which would be linebackers in my case, to get it in there when Purdue tried to drop back and do zone. But then also, I will tell you this, give the offensive line credit on pass protection, because it almost looked at times. There was one play in particular, I think on the second or third down, where Dylan could have ran it for 6 yards or so.
Yeah.
He had so much protection, and he threw across his body to the left.
That's right.
You'd like to see him run that. So give the offensive line credit, at least in the pass game, from start to finish, they were able to stymie Purdue's pass rush. Now, we need to get better starting the game off in conventional run game, especially against Rutgers. And as we move forward to Rutgers, after we essentially dissect everything with Purdue for the next 72 hours, being able to spread Rutgers out is going to be imperative.
Let's talk about that in just a moment. We have one last phone call. Honda of Lincoln Hotline, 464-5685. We got Danico. Danico, you're on the show, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, fella?
What's up?
What's happening, Danico?
Hey, man, I'm feeling a whole lot better in the man cave this week than I was last week.
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, the guys, I mean, this is the kind of game that we needed to have, man, especially going into that Rutgers game. You know, I think the guys, as the game went on, the defense got stronger, and then the offense picked it up. But this is the kind of game I needed to see outside of the penalties from our team being able to rebound after a loss. Because in the past, man, we would have went in the tank.
Yeah, Danico's 100% right. You know, in the past, you know, Nebraska would have lost to the game obviously prior, and then would have walked through the first half.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of uptake and then tanked. And matter of fact, it's been at Purdue like 2 or 3 times. Now, the one time where, you know, Frost was under a little bit of heat, and then one of the defensive backs came up and hugged him, you know, afterwards. But, you know, we've had it with Mike Riley, and obviously the first year Frost was here, when we tried to run a RPO down at the goal line or something like that, we end up losing to Purdue. And then obviously when I think it was Mike Riley here, where the guy came off the sideline, what we talked about in the pregame show, eating a hot dog, third team quarterback came in and essentially won it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And so for the team to kind of band together, the defense kind of hold force, it can go a long ways. And if you have a letdown, there's two type of letdowns. And we saw this really in a matter of 2 weeks. You get up and beat the brakes off of Colorado, and then you have kind of a letdown in the second half.
Yeah.
Well, then you kind of have a letdown in the first half against Northern Iowa, right? That's fair assessment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
overall, I'm talking about overall.
The whole Northern Iowa game was just kind of
blah. Yeah, right.
You won 34-3, which is great.
But it was kind of blah.
Yeah.
Right. So then you have that. And then you say, okay, well, here comes Illinois, a team that we are more talented in, we should beat, and Northern Iowa should be our wake-up call.
Yeah.
Well, the alarm goes off and you hit snooze. Well, boom, you're late for class, you lose. And then the second hangover, so the first hangover is coming off a huge victory under a lot of pressure with Colorado on national stage, you're ranked.
Yeah.
Then you have the positive hangover. Then you have the negative hangover, or shooting yourself in the foot from Illinois, which led in, I believe, into the first half, and then the wake-up call in the second half. So they need to take that, like Danico says, and improve on from the first half, take what they did in the second half, and better come out guns a-blazing against Rutgers.
That's what I was. So now, before we have 2 minutes left in the show here, another tough running back awaits Nebraska, right? Kyle, I want to believe it's pronounced Monangai.
Monangai, yeah.
Monangai, Mongai. Really good running back. Potentially outside of Donovan Edwards, the best running back in the Big Ten
You think outside of Donovan Edwards? I said it at the Big Ten media days where we were at. I said he's the best running back in the Big Ten. I got pushed back. I feel pretty good about where we're at right now. With him, which also here is, I think, a little bit better situation than Illinois and possibly Purdue.
Yeah.
You focus on him, do a really good job on first and second down with him. I like our chances with Colin McCandless as their quarterback against us versus the quarterbacks that we face with Kurt and obviously Illinois' quarterback that's playing really well. So I like our chances, but we got to win on first and second down. How do you do that? Excellent week of preparation. Get over yourself after this game. Once you land back in Lincoln, the game is over. The page is turned. This is not time to celebrate beating Purdue. This is a time to, I guess, recognize we beat Purdue, also understand why we didn't beat Purdue by more. And then when we land in Lincoln, okay, we go home, but come like later tonight as we watch probably a Georgia game or whatever, we are 100% focused on Rutgers. Rutgers has a day early on us because they play Friday night. Not much, right? Because we played Saturday morning. Rutgers is the most important game. That's going to be our best opponent. They're going to be the best coach. It's going to be our most physical game. And then therefore it's going to be our biggest game to get up mentally and spiritually. And it starts today or tonight when they get back.
Rutgers, there's a pretty good chance they're probably ranked 2.
That's fine.
When they get
That's
here.
fine. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just providing context.
We're not too far from that. Anywhere from 16 to 40, you're all the same. And that's great because we want ranked teams and we want to beat them. Expect their best shot, prepare for their best shot, and let's give them our best shot for once. Let's play a full game and see how Rutgers handles it.
Seen Cadillac Manis before. Obviously, was with Minnesota last year.
And you're not losing any sleep, but we got to hit this dude.
Yeah.
And so,
Shiano defense.
Yep. Shout out to the defense and the continued progress on the offense. Dylan Raiola played well. Receivers played well. Emmett Johnson, running backs played well. But also, what else is well? Action Plumbing, Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Creekrack, and Elway Sports of Lincoln. Appreciate your guys' support and making this Jay Foreman postgame show possible. We're going to turn it over to my man, Austin Orman and Chancellor Brewington to take us on home after Husker victory, 28-10. We'll holler at you next week.
This is Shane Podliska, mortgage lender at Lincoln Federal Savings Bank. I'm here to help you achieve your goal, the American dream of home ownership. Whether you're buying your first home or looking to refinance, I've got the experience and know-how to make it happen. So let's tackle this together. Call me, Shane Podliska, and let's get you into the end zone of home ownership. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Go Big Red.
Personal banking like you remember.
With a wide variety of menu options, including the best prime and Wagyu steaks in Lincoln, if you haven't been to Tavern 180, you're missing out. Try any of their steak options paired with one of their well-known martinis, and this will soon become your favorite date night spot. Call your friends for a casual get-together where steak, shrimp, chicken, and tasty cocktails await your arrival. Tavern 180, located next door to Tanner's at 30th and Yankee Hill.
Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best boxing on Saturday, October 5th with Roughnecks at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. 8 bouts are scheduled for the night, including the main event of Dwayne Johnson and Jack Lawless Frericks in the professional middleweight championship bout. Doors open at 6 p.m. with first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the boxers and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com. Attention students and anyone else looking for a great deal. Sun Valley Lanes and Games has the ultimate weeknight special. For just $15.95, enjoy unlimited bowling, lucky putt mini golf, and laser tag. Flash your college ID at check-in to receive $2 off your admission. It's the perfect way to unwind Sunday through Thursday nights. Check out sunvalleylanes.com for hours and availability. Sun Valley Lanes and Games, located at 321 Victory Lane.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete. Sun Valley.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Sea-Doo dealership. Score up to $300 off or a free 2-year warranty on 2024 Sea-Doo Sparks and $500 off or a free 2-year warranty on all other brand new 2024 Sea-Doos. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of September. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with a large selection of motorcycles and watercraft in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
Hey, Nebraska football fans, it's defensive lineman Ty Robinson, and I've got a winning play for you with Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Team up with Action and install a new Bradford white water heater in your home. And if we win the conference championship this season, you'll get a full refund. Don't fumble this opportunity. Sack your old water heater this season and score big with Action. Visit actionlincoln.com/Huskers to learn more.
Promotion valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Mindel Footwear is your solution against sore feet, blisters, and poor footing. Don't just take our word for it. Take it from Sip, a city's never had a pair of boots more comfortable. You won't find Mindel Footwear in any store, sold exclusively at MindelUSA.com right out of Sidney, Nebraska. They're so confident you will enjoy the comfort their boots offer. If they don't work out for you, they'll cover the shipping to return them. Use code THETICKET for free shipping because your feet deserve a treat too. Mindel boots, just try them on.
Ready to hit the road in style? Liberty First Credit Union is revving up your ride with unbeatable auto loan specials. Cruise away with rates as low as 4.79% APR for 48 months on a 2020 or newer vehicle. Need a longer term? No worries. They've got you covered with 4.89 APR for 60 months and 4.99 APR for 72 months. Hurry, these rates are cruising fast, so don't get left in the dust. Visit libertyfirstcu.com. Credit factors apply. Rates, terms, and conditions subject to change.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Lease a 2024 Ford F-150 for $437 per month for 36 months. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004120, $437 per month, lease for 36 months with approved credit, 7,500 miles per year, 5,500 dual signing, no security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 9/30/2024. See dealer for details.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinny Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
One final segment here of post-game coverage from 93.7 The Ticket Studios. Austin Norman and Chancellor Brewington with you now. We'll take you right up to the top of the hour, then get you on your way. Don't forget, coming up later tonight, 6 o'clock or 6:30 kickoff. Not Ohio State. What am I thinking? They're coming up next in Michigan State. We got Georgia-Bama right here on these airlines. Number 2 versus number 4. Chancellor, let's just get that game out of the way real quick. 7 times since the 2018 national championship game these teams have met. It's been a top 5 matchup every time except for one. And that was last year when Bama was number 8, beat number 1, Georgia. That is a heavyweight matchup. Bama touchdown underdog at home, first time since Saban's first year. DeBoer gets a chance to host Georgia in his first year. Massive game for both these programs tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I personally have Bama. I have Bama. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Hot take, I guess. Like but no, I think this Georgia team has a really good defense, and that's what you want to see when you get into these, possibly, January games where, this might be a preview of what's to come in the championship game coming up. So I really like Alabama here. I think Milroe will show us some things. I think he'll play a sound game, and I think Bama gets it done. Close though.
Milroe was that guy in the win last year in the SEC championship game. Business at hand. Nebraska 28, Purdue 10.
Yeah.
Same score as Colorado. Same colors from Purdue.
Okay.
I don't know if those games felt the same. How do you react to the 28-10 win for the Huskers today?
Yeah, so obviously first half was ugly. I'm sure Jay and Nick talked about it. I mean, just ugly stuff. But there's some good takeaways from the ugly. And you always have to look at the positive. I thought the defense played good enough to win in the first half specifically. I thought, 0 points. Don't even let the team really get in the red zone. They miss a field goal. Yeah. But for the most part, they tackled pretty well. There were some, a couple missed opportunities, but they tackled well, from on the back end. They covered well. I thought Buford and Sair Wright played a really good game. But the back end played good. Deshaun Gifford, all those guys played good. And then you look at offensive drive. They were 0 for 8 on third down, first half.
Woo.
So you can't win football games like that. And so when you look at what the offense was doing in the first half, it kind of looked like they were trying to funnel in the run with the pass. And I think the way this offense is best, and you've seen it through Colorado, you've seen it in UTEP, they're best when they funnel in the pass through the run. And I think establishing the run inside the tackles. You saw Emmett Johnson get going, and I've been super high on him, Austin. I think Emmett Johnson moving forward eventually will be in our number 1 back.
I could see it, right? Yeah. Dante Dowdell, 9 carries for 21 yards for him today. But Emmett Johnson, I think, really stole the show, right? Yeah. 8 carries for 50 yards. His long was 16. So even if you take that 1 carry for 16 out, you still end up with 7 carries for 34 yards, which is over 4 yards a pop. Oh, and by the way, 3 catches for 48 yards, including the screen pass that he took. First of all, what a performance from him. But Chancellor, talk about Emmett Johnson staying ready, right? It hasn't been his turn through 4 games. It was today. What does it take to take advantage of an opportunity like he got today?
Yeah, so you could have easily looked at, the UNI week and you looked at the Illinois week and said, oh man, if I'm Emmett Johnson, I'm not going to play this week, yada, yada, yada. But you get an opportunity, Dante, for whatever reason, just hasn't really had it the past 2 games, I would say. Maybe it's opportunities, maybe it's run scheme, maybe it's play call. I don't know. But it seems like whenever Emmett gets in there, he knows he has to prove something, right? So there's a fire. I'm not going to let one guy tackle me. We've seen that consistently. I mean, he's making guys miss at the first level, next level, secondary. He's making multiple guys miss. And it's really good to see. And I think we're establishing with Emmett what type of runs we like with him. And that's really big. So moving forward, you get into Big Ten play, we go play a really good Rutgers teams. I'm sure we'll talk about it to wrap it up. But when you go and play these really good football teams, especially in the running back room, you want your guys to be, okay, I'm really comfortable running this type of stuff. I'm really comfortable, with Emmett, catching things out the backfield and Ramir catching things out the backfield and Dante being our goal line guy, right? We saw that, right? Yeah. I think we're establishing roles and they're going to shift a little bit more as we get going. I think Rutgers game, we'll see a little different side of Emmett, or we'll see a different side of Ramir that we need to add in. But I think it's really getting acclimated. And I think Satterfield will have to continue to do a better job understanding how to run the football, when to run the football, and when to throw the ball. Because Dylan has proved. I mean, he goes 16 for 26, but the reality of it is a lot of those were throwaways. A lot of those were outside the pocket throws, right? And so Dylan can effectively throw the ball in any situation. We've seen that. So we have to establish a run game to expand these gaps when we have leads and also to get in games.
Let's stick on Emmett Johnson for just a sec before we get to the run game as a whole. You said that he runs like he has something to prove every time he goes in there. And I think that's the perfect way to describe it, because I think back to last year where Emmett Johnson was an afterthought, right? Small guy. And we'll see what he can do late at the end of the year just because Nebraska's down running backs. He put himself in the conversation to be RB1 this year. This year, right, it's the 3 oars between the 4 players to start the year. Emmett Johnson kind of falls back in the pack and then takes advantage today. I got some flashbacks to last year from Emmett Johnson, right? He looks very similar to the player he was last year. Not saying he hasn't improved, but in that you can tell he's upset that he's down the depth chart. Not by his attitude, but he's running angry.
Oh, yeah.
He's running, like you said, with something to prove, making sure that he makes every cut he can. He fights for every yard he can. And if that's all it takes to unlock the run game, you wonder why you don't see that out of anyone else, but it's great to see from 21.
Yeah, it's great to see from Emmett. He's a guy that I don't think we've seen his full skill set, like running the football. I mean, give Emmett 20 carries, see what happens, right? I would love to see it. It will be interesting. They have a decision to make. He put pressure on this Nebraska coaching staff to make a decision. And as a player, that's what you want to do. You always want to say, I'm not happy. I'm grateful to be in the position of playing, but I'm not happy with where you have me on the depth chart. And so moving forward this week, Rutgers is going to run the football. They're going to run the football, and either you're going to match it with shots, or you're going to match it with running the football. And I think Emmett has shown, I can handle this. I'm not a freshman anymore. I'm not a young guy. I'm an older guy on this team. I'm a veteran. I need the football in my hands because why? I can make this team and this offense more explosive.
Another guy that has helped with that, Ja'Cory Barney Jr.
Man, I'm so high on him.
31-yard carry, 25-yard carry for a touchdown. It's not a traditional run game, but holy cow, it's working.
Come on. I mean, get him the ball in space. Get him the ball. However, we've ran this reverse thing, like, probably. I mean, this is the most I've seen a team run a reverse. I mean, the same reverse. I mean, we probably run it 10 times, right? We run a handoff with him. He has 66 rushing yards as our receiver, and he doesn't even play all the snaps, right? He's not a guy he's not like Jamal Banks and Nayer, where there are traditional X and Z. He's sometimes in the slot. He's sometimes on the outside. So I see his role expanding. We saw it. I believe the first time we saw him on the scene was really Colorado week, where he emerged. He did some things UTEP as well.
Because he had the one called back by penalty against UTEP.
Exactly. So we saw him UTEP. We're like, hold on, this guy has some flashes. Colorado week, it was confirmed. UNI week, it was confirmed some more. Illinois, now he's catching passes, catch the big third down against Illinois, gets up celebration, and now he takes a reverse, about I believe it was 31 yards, has a touchdown. Does really good things not only in the ball carrying game, but can run routes downfield. So, and we saw Carter Nelson early.
Yeah.
I think
he had the first catch of the game.
Exactly. As this offense and as these young guys with their mind, this is just a mind thing right now. They need to expand their mind, expand how much a coach can put on them, because the more their role increases, the more we're going to see them on the field.
Ja'Cory Barney is pretty much always in motion, whether it's wide side of the field to near side to take that handoff for the touchdown, or just a short motion to reset the defense. What does motion do, first of all, for Ja'Cory Barney and giving him an advantage, and then for Nebraska's offense in general?
Yeah, so motion is great for leverage. So if you're trying to gain the edge on the linebacker, defensive end, whatever it is, a motion gets your fastest guy moving in space, right? And so also what motions do, it messes with linebackers, right? Linebackers start shuffling over, and you motion Ja'Cory over to the right, and then you run it to the left. Obviously, the linebackers are focused on Ja'Cory, those type of things. So, and I think this is where this offense is best. And I've said it on here, I've said it on every platform I get on. I said this offense needs moving pieces. And honestly, we talked about it on the block. I think we need to start doing some more tempo.
Sure.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, there's times where, we're substituting, doing all this stuff, but we could just run an inside zone with Emmett or Dante and get 2 yards, right? We don't have to go and run this crazy stuff, right? Don't really need that. And I would love to see that moving forward, but I'm really high on how this offense is moving. Would love to run the football, but can't get everything you want. Right?
Against a team like Illinois or maybe even Rutgers, big physical stout defenses, there's maybe not as much opportunity for big play to run tempo. Seemed like it was there against Purdue. But while we're on the young guys, right, whether it's Barney, whether it's the Nelson catch or Emmett Johnson, who is still a young guy, right? He's only sophomore. I was glad to see Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield let those guys cook. I said it with people I was watching the game with. Ja'Cory Barney's got to come off the field, but not for more than a play or two at a time. He was Nebraska's best weapon to move the ball down the field in the first half. Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola both talked about how young guys gave that offense a spark. So many times, Chancellor, we've seen Nebraska not let a guy win them the game. I'm not saying Ja'Cory Barney won Nebraska this game, but sometimes it seems like Nebraska in the past has gotten too cute with, this guy had a couple nice plays. But he's just a freshman. We can't trust him in this moment or that moment. If a dude's moving the ball down the field for you, let him cook. I felt like Nebraska did a much better job of that today than they had at least through the first 4 games this year.
Yeah, I mean, right after that Ja'Cory score, I mean, we go and score, I think it was like 14 points in 35 seconds, right? Yeah. So it's back-to-back consistency. And to even touch on, of course, the young guys, but to touch on this receiving room, Banks and Nair causing these penalties. These
3 of them? 4 of them?
Right, 4 of, I believe it was maybe even 4 of them. These defensive PIs, when you see your offense, your team, quote unquote, causing a lot of defensive PIs, it means one thing: they're separating, and it's causing the defense to have to hold, have to grab, have to make illegal plays, because you're putting them in compromised positions, and it's really wins on the receivers. Of course, I'm sure they would want to have clean football, and a lot of those passes probably would be caught for big gains, and the stat sheet would look a little different. But I'm just so high on these young guys and high on the transfers that they added in. And when you look at the young guys like Carter Nelson, Ja'Cory, Dylan Raiola, even McGahee, he had some good snaps, Shavers. When you look at all these guys coming in here, it gives you hope. Like, oh man, like we're going to be really good coming up.
We need to save a little bit of time for the defense, but before we move off of that, Purdue comes down. Nebraska's defense holds after an 8-minute drive. Purdue kicks a field goal. Offense marches down the field, gets into the red zone, gets inside the 5. What did you make of how Nebraska handled that possession inside the 5? It took them all 4 downs for Dante Dowdell to actually get the ball in the end zone. You had the run by Gabe, the fade, the double reverse, and then you punch it in. How do you think Nebraska handled that 4-play sequence?
I hate the fades. I hate them. I personally am not a fan of them. I'm a fan of them in certain situations, but we've seen it. I believe this is our 3rd time seeing this in the red zone. I would like, if we're going to throw the ball, I just see, okay, we threw the ball. If we could throw the ball, we could, get into a pick play. Kind of like the play we saw with Banks running that back line. You know, you had Fedoni and whoever the slot receiver kind of hold that middle safety. So Banks went over, like things like that, where they're well thought out, where they're well schemed, maybe a play action, hitting Ramir Johnson in the flat, like those type of things I would like to see. You know, the fades are cool. You got 2 6'4" receivers. I like that. And then the Gabe Irvin, I love that. I love that play call. And then I love the fact that you line up, you actually bring in on third down, you bring in I'm not familiar with the running back. But you bring in I forget his name, but he tries to jump over the pile.
Oh, that was Carter Nelson.
Oh, that was Carter Nelson?
Yeah, that was Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually like that, right?
Okay.
But then you say we're a better football team. Everyone in the world knows when they line up in 12 personnel with I formation or 22 personnel, and you got this I formation, you know they're running this ball right in that right C gap.
Yep.
And everyone's going
Stop it.
Stop it. And I would have loved that first down, to be honest with you. But I love the guts and the cojones to call that on fourth down. And honestly, you have to.
Right. And it worked out,
Yeah.
right? If it doesn't work, you got boring, but
Right.
the other play calls might have been too cute. I lied. One last thing on the offense. Nebraska could have had a touchdown in the first half. Thomas Fedoni gets whistled for OPI and a pick play. And here's the thing. Replay shows he didn't touch him, but your former tight end, I can only guess your advice would be sell it a little better. Stick your hands out like you're at least acting to catch a pass.
Well, so
maybe?
Yeah. So actually the coaching point, that was the kind of older technique is you kind of throw your hands out, right?
Okay.
The newer technique is exactly what Thomas Fedoni did. You try to run at the defender you're trying to quote unquote pick. And at the last second, you move out the way. Because the ruling, if you look at the rule book, you have to show as an offensive receiver, you're attempting to move out the way. And
Gotcha.
Fedoni did that, right?
Yeah.
Fedoni did that. If you go back and look,
he contorted, he twisted.
Yeah, he contorted, he turned his left shoulder. If you go back and look at all the great teams, that concept is called mesh. All the great teams who run mesh, I mean, they run that same type of technique. If you go watch it on Sundays, they're going to do it tomorrow. So tough call.
Okay, let's wrap up with the defense. We got just a couple minutes here. Seems like a really good bounce back for that unit. They don't let Purdue get over 200 total yards till deep into the fourth quarter. Only around 50 rushing yards. Now, granted, they bring 24 of that back with sacks and Hudson Card rushing. But Devin Mockabee averaged 6 yards per carry against Nebraska for his career. 13 carries, 41 yards. Reggie Love, capable running back in his own right. 10 carries for 33 yards. The numbers say Nebraska allowed 50 yards. Do you believe it from what you saw, how the game actually played out?
Yeah, so people were so critical. Like, oh, we're not tackling, we're not doing this. But when you look at the stats, I mean, it's 31 rushes, 50 yards. You're averaging 1.6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Of course, a couple of those are sacks, so it'd probably look around, 3 yards of carry. But for the most part, we're getting the job done. Getting the job done. And this was a question mark coming into it. Okay, Purdue's going to run the ball. Illinois ran the ball on us. You and I kind of ran the ball on us, right?
Yeah.
We need to establish, take away the run. And so this is great momentum, Austin, going into a Rutgers game. And Rutgers is going to run the ball for at least, 40 attempts, right? Yeah. They got one of the best backs in the Big Ten, maybe top 10 back in the country, right? And it's going to be a great test for this defense moving forward.
224 yards is all Purdue mustered. Nebraska sacked Hudson Card 5 times, which is more than I would have thought. 9 tackles for losses of defense. Overall, Chancellor, what a response by that group. You get the pick 6 by John Bullock to really ice things. I don't know if it was a perfect game from the defense, but man, it was a lot better than we saw at Memorial Stadium last Friday.
Yeah, for sure. I think you look at as a team. Okay, we started off, not very good, but you gain momentum. And you start off bad, but you finish good. So what do we remember now? We remember the good. I mean, you honestly pick up as a coaching staff and as a team, pick out the pieces that you want to show in this first half to your team and highlight the good. Focus on the things that Rutgers are going to try to beat you on. But for the most part, I thought this defense finished. That's what you want to see in a defense. They get an obvious pass scenario, last drives of the game, you go and get 3 sacks, right? That's what I love to see from this defense and this team, bouncing back when things get rough.
28-10, Nebraska takes down Purdue. Huskers now 4-1, just 2 wins away from a bowl game. Afternoon kick against Rutgers next week. 4th straight sort of smash mouth defense-oriented team. We'll see if Nebraska can back up this performance this week with another one on Saturday, October the 5th. That'll do it for us here today. Again, don't forget Georgia, Bama on these airwaves coming up here in just a couple hours. Come back with us on Monday. Starting at 1 o'clock, locker room, Chancellor and Mikey. I'm sure you guys will have plenty to get to about this game. And Stricky and I will break down the game a little bit more following them. No former football players there, but hey, a couple basketball guys will give it a crack. For Chancellor, for Jay, for Nick, I'm Austin. It's been a great day. Nebraska wins 28-10. Have a happy rest of your weekend of watching football, college football, and the NFL. We'll talk to you soon.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Lease a 2024 Ford F-150 for $437 per month for 36 months. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004120, 437 per month, lease for 36 months with approved credit, 7,500 miles per year, 5,500 due signing, no security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 9/30/2024. See dealer for details.
Tanner's Bar and Grill is the